listening to the Orchestra Teacher Podcast. Welcome to the Orchestra Teacher Podcast. Dr. Charles Laux here. This is episode number 80, and I am thrilled to introduce Lauren Roznowski Hayden, an inspiring force in music education. Lauren is the orchestra teacher at Longfellow Middle School, where she leads 315 students with passion and dedication. With 17 years of teaching experience spanning elementary, middle school, and high school levels, Lauren has built a career rooted in her love for both music and community. An alumna of Wauwatosa School District herself, Lauren is living her dream of giving back to the very schools that helped shape her. She also serves as a music director for the Milwaukee Youth Symphony Orchestra, conducting the audition-based Symphonia Orchestra of 100 young musicians. Lauren's accomplishments are remarkable, from earning a Cole Teaching Fellowship to being named a Fulbright Distinguished Teacher that took her to Honduras. Tune in to hear how Laura's passion for teaching, music, and community has made her a standout educator and leader in the field. This is Lauren Roznowski Hayden. Lauren, welcome so much to the Orchestra Teacher Podcast. We are thrilled to have you here today.
Thank you. It's so great to be here.
Absolutely. So you kind of reached out to me, and we've never met. So this is a very first time we've spoken, and I love the spontaneity of today. So looking forward to getting to know you. So just tell us a little about where you teach, and a little bit about your background and your career.
Sure. I went to Lawrence University in Appleton, Wisconsin for my undergrad, and I was able to student teach there with Carrie Gruzel, who is very well-known arranger, incredible middle school orchestra teacher, now retired, and Gary Wolfman, who was the high school orchestra director in Appleton at the time, both retired now, and they are just both were such incredible mentors to me and really set me on this path. So my first job teaching was in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, which is kind of, some people call a northern suburb of Chicago, but it's in Wisconsin. And then I went to grad school at Northwestern University. I met my husband there, who's also an orchestra teacher. And we studied with Dr. Janet Barrett, Dr. Maud Hickey, Jim Chelland, and just had an incredible experience there. Yes, really. We've got some great people in this part of the country, and we're very lucky. Yeah. So I then got a job teaching at Kettle Moraine High School, which is in Delafield, Wisconsin. And there, some colleagues and I were part of the beginnings of a fine arts charter school within the district. We got to teach history, English, all through the lens of music, and it was an incredible experience. Awesome. And then it was kind of time for me to find something that was more focused. So I was doing many different things in my teaching role. So I ended up back in my hometown of Wauwatosa, Wisconsin, which is a very close suburb of Milwaukee. Milwaukee is a stone's throw from my house. Got it. Okay. And I am teaching at the middle school that I attended, Longfellow Middle School. It's wonderful. Yes, I've been there. This is my 7th year. Okay. And my husband teaches the high school orchestra in Wauwatosa East High School. And so we work together. Wonderful. We both can walk to work every day. Our children go to school in the district, and it's a beautiful work-life balance. That's fantastic. Yeah, you can't beat having that. No. That proximity is just, it's life-changing. If you've ever commuted before, like I have commuted some miles before. Absolutely. My school that I've been at now, my 3rd year, is in a close proximity, and it's just life-changing. It's a dream. Yeah. It's a dream. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. So we've got quite a large program here. When I started, the middle school had about 140 kids in the orchestra program, and now I have 330 students. Wow! And do you have any help? Explosive growth. Last year, I was able to add a half-time director with me. We have a kind of a program with pull-out lessons half the week, and then 45-minute regular class periods half the week. That's very nice. We've got 4 orchestras of 80 each, and I'm kind of trying to figure out how to move forward from here in a way that will be good for everybody.
Yeah, well, that's a challenge. Is
Yeah.
there's a lot of teachers will have these really big programs. They're like, I just want more kids and more kids, and then
Right.
you get so many kids. You're like, I don't know how to like it.
Yeah.
It gets
Yep.
that's the challenge, right? So being able
Yes.
to get to know them personally and get to
Exactly.
be able to be just have that refinement of skills
Yeah.
sometimes can be extremely challenging with the big
Yes.
classes like
Yes.
that. But that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. And so I know that you also had some accolades recently where you got a
Yeah.
Fulbright. And can you tell us a little bit
Yep.
about some of the?
Yeah.
You have to toot
Absolutely.
your own horn a little bit. I know
I
it's sometimes
That's
not
okay.
easy to do.
Right. Last year, I had a very good year. I received the Cole Fellowship, which is a big Wisconsin teaching award,
Mm.
not music specific, but kind of in
Oh,
general. And the great thing about that award is it comes with a significant amount of money for your school program. So I was
yay.
able to replace all the cellos for my middle school orchestra,
Wow.
which
How many
was
did you get?
quite a feat. I think I got 9 cellos out of
Nice.
it, which,
Okay.
we still have some others that are not
Yeah.
the ideal.
Yeah.
Time.
But nine at once is a pretty good purchase.
It's great. It's great.
Yeah.
Yes. So I got that, and then I a year ago August applied for a Fulbright program called DAST, DAST, which is the Distinguished Award Short Term
Oh,
Educator. It's not a
okay.
very good.
It's kind of that's kind of a weird.
It's an awkward.
Yeah.
Right. And this is a program for teachers in the United States to embark on a short term teaching abroad experience that is project specific. So each year they list different projects, and some of them are teaching at a bilingual school, or it might be helping teachers in another country learn how to do online education, something that you might have an expertise in that you would help. And my husband and I had kind of both been looking at these for a while just to see if something would come across that would fit, because we like to travel. We would love to take our children to live abroad for a while.
Cool.
And this one popped up last August, and it said, looking for a middle school orchestra teacher to help with rehearsal techniques in a music school in San Pedro Sula, Honduras.
Wow.
And it just felt perfect. It felt perfect. The only problem was it required fluency in Spanish, and I do not speak any Spanish at all.
Okay.
So I applied for this this program, and I was honest. I said, I took a trimester of Spanish in undergrad, and that's about as far as I got.
Yeah.
But I was willing to learn and put in the work. And I got a call just before Thanksgiving last year that said the embassy would like to have a Zoom with me. So that's sort of the next step in a Fulbright. So I got to do a Zoom interview at the Honduran embassy, or the U.S. embassy in Honduras.
Sure.
And it was very cool. And I met the director of the school, and it felt like this could be something. This feels like an amazing fit. I was inspired by the conversation.
Yeah.
Jorge Benegas is the director, and he was just very inspirational. He's taught in France and in Honduras and in China. And then I was conducting my winter concert last December, and I have a fiddle club. So my fiddle club went on stage without me to perform because they do their own thing.
Oh, that's
and
great.
I grabbed my phone to take a picture for our school Instagram page. And as I was doing that, I got a message popped up that said I'd been accepted for this Fulbright program.
Perfect
timing. So it was very exciting in the middle of the concert to get that news. And then I immediately downloaded Duolingo and began my
cramming
my practice of Spanish.
How did that go then for you, learning the language? And you had how many months to do that?
I left in the middle of July. I was there for 6 weeks.
Okay, so you had about 7 months.
I had about 6 months.
7 months. Yeah. Wow.
It was challenging, but I was very diligent. And when I got there, I realized that I was able to piece together sentences fairly well. Taking in the speed of talking was very challenging.
That's I did Spanish in high school, and I've been to Ecuador a few times for we had a student teaching abroad program when I was at university, wonderful. And I got to visit and do all that. But it's that speed. It's like I can't keep up. I can't keep up. But luckily I was at a bilingual school, so
Yes,
They were
yes.
able to help me
Yes.
out.
Yeah, and the level of English in San Pedro Sula is not very prevalent.
Okay.
It's not something that there's a lot of interest, especially among adults, in learning.
Right.
The teenagers have more English,
Hmm.
and some of the students were able to help me out. But when I stood up to do my first rehearsal, I realized I didn't know any of the words that I needed to know.
It's like, how do you say,
What is measure
bridge in Spanish?
65? Like,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow.
So I
Yeah.
learned that very, very quickly, and I made a little list. And by the end, my husband actually flew out for the last 2 days
Okay.
to come and visit. We decided not to have the whole family come because it turned out not to be very safe where I was,
Oh, no.
um,
Okay.
which was unfortunate. But
Yeah. Yeah.
they took good care of me, so I was safe. But when my husband came out, he was like, you just speak Spanish now," and I said, I think I might speak Spanish now.
Being in the environment, that's what
Right?
makes it so
Yeah.
quick. You can learn it
Yeah.
quickly,
Absolutely.
That's and
Absolutely.
when you're forced to have to do it,
Yes, you have to.
that's wonderful. Well, wow.
It's
So that's a
wild.
really cool experience. And then has there
Yeah.
been any follow-up or any,
Yeah.
uh,
So since I've come, I actually arrived back 2 days before the first day of school. So I missed our in-service days, and it just
mhm.
felt like I was jumping right back in, and it's
Yeah,
been a
that's
little bit of a
hard.
whirlwind. It was very hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think I'm starting now to adjust. What was really wonderful is my orchestra students wrote letters to my future Honduran students before I left. And then my Honduran students wrote letters back, and I handed them out
Oh,
on the first day of school. And a lot of them wrote down their social media accounts. And
okay.
my students were very excited. They said, I was using Google Translate and I was talking on Instagram to this girl from Honduras last evening. And
Isn't that cool? Yeah, it's like
it
the
was
old school
wonderful.
pen pals. I don't know if you ever did
Yes,
that growing up, but
yes.
I did, and yeah,
Absolutely.
that's really neat. Really
Yeah,
neat.
yeah.
Well,
So
very
it was
cool.
wonderful.
Yeah, that just sounds like an amazing opportunity, and
It was.
difficult to leave your family. How long were you there again?
I was there for 6 weeks.
Okay, so that's a good
So
amount
it
of
was
time.
significant, and
Sure.
it was pretty lonely.
Yeah.
It's San Pedro Sula is not a city that you can walk around in.
Okay.
So I was
Okay.
in a gated community with
Mm,
a security guard. Even every fast food restaurant had somebody, with a rifle outside standing guard, and
that's
just everywhere. So they drove me everywhere I went. On the weekends, they sometimes took me to the beach or to see
okay.
things in the city, which was wonderful. But the school there is just so different
Mhm.
than what we have. The students are in school from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. every single day.
Wait,
And
7 days a week?
it's just the 5 days a week.
5 days.
5 days a
Okay.
week. Yeah.
But still,
So they still have their
that's a
weekends.
lot more contact time,
It's a
and
lot.
they eat dinner there, right?
Yeah, well, they
Okay.
eat dinner when they come home. They get a 2 hour lunch break. So from
Okay.
about noon to
Okay.
2 every day, they got lunch, and they collected all the students' phones in a big tub at the beginning of the day. So they were phone free for that whole 12 hours, which was pretty beautiful.
So that's the way it should be done.
I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
At the end, the parents are picking out, and they're like, whose phone is this? They're passing out. And I was like, why
That's
can't we just
that's
do
amazing.
this? Yeah, it was
Wow.
wonderful. But
Wow.
the kids were very, very focused. They were very serious about music. It was a specialized music school.
Okay.
And
Oh,
so
okay.
they were kind of from 7 to noon, they were taking their more core academic classes. And then from 2 until 7 p.m., they were in music theory, music history, private lessons, group lessons, rehearsals,
Wow.
um, and just very focused in. So I was really shocked by the level of rigor that was expected of the
Yeah. It's
students.
like a conservatory.
It was like a
Yeah.
conservatory,
Yeah.
except many of the students, some of them had money because this was a private school, but
Mhm.
the resources that they had are very different from what most of our students
Yeah.
have. And they were able to achieve great things. And so it really changed how I taught, because when I came home, I was thinking, well, I have to expect so much more of my students.
Good.
Why am I, letting poor technique or poor practice habits kind of continue on
Yeah.
when they can do all of this here with so much less than I
Yeah.
have,
It's the teacher sets the standard, and sometimes
Exactly.
it's easy for us to I notice it when I go and visit other classrooms. I'm like, are my kids doing this? And then I go back to my classroom, like, oh my gosh, my kids are doing that too. So like, it's one of those things. It's great to be able to get out of your element and visit other places and
yes,
do all that. So wow, cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so your program has just exploded. Could you tell us?
Yes.
Besides, obviously, you seem to have like a bubbly personality, and I call them kid magnets. But what are some of the things that you do besides, personality is what you're born with, and what But what are some of the things that you do for your recruiting? I mean, you start in what grade?
We start in fourth grade.
In fourth grade, okay.
Which is wonderful. And I think this is probably different from where you are, but we're considered a little bit of a larger district. But for us, that means 2 high schools, 2 middle schools.
That's a lot different than where I'm from, but it's more the norm, especially in the Midwest and other places where your school district is very isolated. Right. It's not your whole county that's a district.
Right. It's just our city, and it's a very supportive city. And so because of the fact that I grew up here, I think I really understand it deeply. I have an amazing feeder program. My elementary colleagues are just so enthusiastic, and they're just drawing the kids in. And right now our middle school starts in 6th grade. There's probably going to be some changes in the future. Okay. But in 6th grade in Wisconsin, music is required. So the students have to choose band, orchestra, choir, or general music. And so I get a lot then, and then my retention is very strong. I think, unfortunately, what people cannot replicate is that because my husband and I work together, we're on the same page philosophically.
Right. And that makes a huge difference, and especially that retention from middle school to high school.
Yes.
And I have I have amazing feeders from coming into my high school. But I will say that they're just very different, Right. And it's not that one's good and one's bad, or one's just like the teaching styles are different, and everything's different. And it's great though, because when they come together, then we kind of have I think I would say the best of every world, So
absolutely.
But you have that's a great luxury.
Right. And I know not everyone can do that.
No. But and I bet there are probably couples out there that probably could not do what you do and work together.
It's also true. Also true.
Yeah. So
and when my husband started in the district 2 years before, I think 1 or 2 years before I did. So he was here already. When I came, I replaced my former middle school orchestra teacher.
Wow.
And we sat down and we made a 5-year plan, and we made a vision, and we said, what do we want this program to look like in 5 years? Mm-hmm. And we considered it a 6-12 program. And then we said, what are the steps we need to get there? And what can we do now? And what can we do next year? And so we laid out a whole 5-year plan. And what happened in the middle of that? COVID. So our goals of a greater social media presence was easy to do.
Yeah.
But some of the other things took more time. But I think having that clearly defined plan, I mean, we met all of our goals. My husband's orchestra played at our state music convention this year, and played at the school board convention a couple years back. And he has taken his students to Italy and Austria, and they performed at the Vatican. And it's been incredible. They're really outstanding students. And now that there's so many of them, we have to kind of change our thought and our vision and what comes next. And we're in the midst of that right now.
But it's so how did COVID impact your numbers? Did they plummet a lot or a little bit?
It kind of just stabilized. Okay. We did not have growth in that year or two. And then what we found, and I don't know if you saw this, but we found that post-COVID in our community, people wanted to do everything.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, kids, we have so many students who are doing our thing and another thing and another thing.
And that's good and bad.
It's good and bad, yes.
Yeah. No, I do see that. And unfortunately, it has spread some kids thin.
Yes.
But I also feel that COVID in some ways has impacted work ethic and focusing on one thing, or that element you discussed earlier, the rigor.
Yes.
That a lot of kids don't understand the rigor.
They don't. Yeah. And that's what I've been trying hard to push this year and get them to understand that. And, I do have so many students that I'm not working hard to keep them. I don't want that to sound wrong, but I don't need to throw parties all the time. We can be serious about music, and we can find our joy
Yeah.
in that music.
Well,
And
when
I
you,
think
I
that's
mean, when
what's
you have the
happening.
luxury of having that many students, you
Mhm.
really want the students who want to be there
Right.
wholeheartedly for the music. And every
Yes.
program, and
Yes.
I have them, is you'll have some kids that are there just for their friends, or
Right. Right. And that's
and
fine.
that's there's
It's
something to be said
wonderful.
for that. That's why I
Yeah.
say in my program, there's a place for everyone.
Absolutely.
If you want to
My
play,
husband
yeah,
says that's one of the reasons the middle school program has grown so much, is my philosophy is that there is a home for everybody
yes,
here.
yeah.
And that is such a good thing. But we are at, there's some capacity in
Well,
the classroom issue.
eventually it will be. I mean, how big is your room to hold 80?
It's pretty small. We
Yeah.
are very much elbow to elbow, and our schedule is built so that I can have two of each grade. So right now I have 2 sixth grade orchestras and then just 1 7th, 1 8th.
Oh, wow.
But I can't expand further than that. So if I needed a third, which is why
Yeah.
it's a little too big in the room, and I share the classroom with the band. So
boy.
the band is in there Mondays and Tuesdays. I'm in there Thursdays
Okay,
and
so you're on a
Fridays.
block
Wednesday
schedule.
rotates.
You're on a
We're
block.
not actually.
Okay.
We're just on like a
Rotational.
Some classes in middle school meet half the week and some meet a full week. But the
wow.
class periods are still 45 minutes. So I get them not very frequently.
No, so that is a challenge too. Wow. So you have
Yes.
these giant numbers, and then you
Yes.
don't get to see them every day.
Right. Exactly.
Challenges.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I see my kids
Yeah.
every day, and I marvel at some of my colleagues who in our district have a block schedule, which we're not.
Yes.
But then they see their kids every single day on the block schedule somehow, and for 90
That's
minutes.
amazing.
For 90 minutes a day.
Wow.
Yeah. So just imagine what you could do.
Oh yeah. You can do everything.
So, but wow. So you are in a challenging situation, but it sounds like it's still going well, and you're keeping kids.
It's very joyful for me.
Yeah.
Yes. This is my dream job, and I'm just so happy doing what I'm doing.
Literally living the dream.
I'm living the dream. Yes.
Saying it.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's great.
And that doesn't mean every day doesn't have its frustrations, but I think that it's going very well, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the future holds.
Yeah. So besides, I guess, space constraints, what are some of the challenges that you see with your students, or just in music ed in general?
Yeah. And with my students, I do on the days that we don't have orchestra. So on those Mondays and Tuesdays, I have pull-out lessons, and I get them for 25 minutes in a small group, which is about 10 students usually.
Yeah.
And that is very helpful. So some of my challenges are when the student doesn't come to that lesson. And I put all of my lessons up we use Canvas. And so I film myself teaching an abbreviated version, and they submit an assignment for that week's formative assessment since they weren't at the lesson. But as I'm sure you can imagine, some kids don't do that either.
Yes.
And so they're missing that instruction, and I'm missing the time to really give them that feedback more individually.
So the pullout is basically an optional thing. They can stay in their regular class.
They could, yeah.
What class
and I'd say most of them come. It rotates, so every single week it's different.
That's
and
good.
So some of the kids just have trouble remembering. And
yeah, that's
I tell the parents, like, yeah, this is a great opportunity to manage your schedule and become organized before you get to high school, because that's an important skill.
Does your school allow cell phones in with them?
They do. The students are not supposed to have them out in the class, but some of them will put a timer on vibrate in their pocket.
Yeah. And that's my thing is like the kids will tell me, I forgot to do this, or I got to remember to do this. I'm like, you have this device in your pocket that you can set to go off when you get home,
Yes.
The geographical location, reminders are like my favorite thing. Right. I always say, remind me to do this when I get to school. Remind me to do this when I get home.
That's great.
All the time. And so,
my students are funny. Excuses. For most of them, will write it on their hand, and that's been like the best thing.
That's old school. We used to do that.
Just write it on their hand. Yeah, and it's like, let's bring back some of that. Why not?
For sure.
Yeah.
That's great.
So funny.
That's great. And then, so, where do you see? How do you feel like you're going to be able to handle more growth? Or what do you?
Yes.
What do you?
I have realized that I have a decision to make here.
Yeah.
I can go one of two routes. So one route, I can try to manage my numbers, and that would be things like putting a cap on the classes, not maybe having, sometimes I will have beginners sign up when the students have been playing for 2 years, and that's challenging. So I might be able to maybe have those beginners in like a separate, very small class to help manage that. But I mean, this year I have 157 sixth graders and I have 2 beginners. So that doesn't really solve a problem. So I can either try to manage the numbers or I can decide that this is what I'm going to become great at in teaching giant amounts of children. And I can go either way. And I need to kind of pick that lane, because if I'm going to do this, and let's make this my thing and let's do this really well. And I know there are people out there with giant programs.
I'm thinking of one of our top programs, I would say middle school programs in Georgia. They have 500 some kids. Wow. And they teach classes of 100. It's Amy Clement, Sarah Ball over in Gwinnett County. And I've been in their classroom many times, especially when I was at the university, and it's just amazing that what they're able to do, and getting the kids to have great posture and and be able to do those, but also have fun. And they're throwing candy at kids from across the room, and it's a controlled chaos, but it's just frankly just amazing what they can do with those numbers. So there is a way to do it, and you have to be. And I also know that Sarah and Amy are the right people to make that happen and do it. And so it's just one of those things of just trying to figure it out. And I'm not sure. Are you involved with ASTA? And
I have been. I haven't been in the last couple of years, but I have been, and that's just a wealth of resources. I'll also say, on a very different lens from it, my 2 daughters, who are ages 10 and 8, they both have played violin since they were 4. Aww. My oldest will be in my orchestra next year, which is going to be, and I think you've had that experience. Is that right? I
have not.
You have not? Okay.
No, but my youngest still plays, and he'll be in 9th grade next year, viola. So
wonderful. Yeah. Well, my daughters are both in Suzuki violin, and every week when I go to their lesson, it's like professional development for me. And that's been probably the most helpful thing. It doesn't help with the large class sizes, but just to see, especially the Suzuki technique lens is really valuable. So managing, those numbers right now, it's going well, but I think this is something that I'm 17 years into my career. I plan on retiring at 57. I have 17 years to go. And I am ready. And I know that if I'm dealing with this amount of kids, this is not something that I could sustain. I will need to retire when I can retire. The energy will be gone.
It is not an infinite thing.
Exactly.
That's for sure.
Yes.
And that's high, super high energy all the time. So thank goodness we have breaks and all that to be able to manage. But that's amazing. This sounds it sounds like you're doing some wonderful things, and I'm so glad that you're able to share that with us today.
Yeah, absolutely.
But thanks for reaching out, because one of my favorite things is just meeting new people. So hopefully we'll be able to see you, and I will invite you to ASTA. The ASTA conference is in Atlanta this year.
I know. It's a little far for me this year.
It is a little far.
It's nice for you.
But there are great, lots of flights in and out of Atlanta. And,
absolutely.
If you're able to make it, that would be wonderful to get to meet you. And then, I could also introduce you to some of our folks who have these giant classes, and you can share stories and ideas and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, we'd love to have you out. Wisconsin has such an incredible music education scene. Our state organization is very active as well, and we'd love to have you out
I would
sometime.
love to come up. It's been, I went to Wisconsin MEA, I think it was 2012 was the last time I was there.
Okay, yeah.
And I can talk to Hal Leonard too, because, they're in Milwaukee there.
Yeah.
And I was there twice in the last year for doing some videos and some things for the new Essential Elements updates that are coming out. So.
Right. It's very exciting. I also direct one of the Milwaukee Youth Symphony Orchestras.
Oh, wow.
And
that's right.
They used our students for the photographs in the new Essential Elements.
That's right. Yeah. So the new book's coming out. That was announced just a couple weeks ago here at Midwest.
And
it's really exciting. There's a lot of great digital resources that'll be included. And as I did all the violin and viola videos, and my colleague and friend David Eccles has done all the cello bass videos. So that's really
Fantastic.
exciting. And then
Yes.
they're talking about Muse class. I wear my shirt today.
Yes.
Muse class is kind of the latest and greatest and one of the newer course management type things, like Essential Elements Interactive. But it's kind of a little more broad than that. So it's something to check out. But there's a lot of great things. And I would love to be able to come up so I can talk to my Hell Leonard folks and see if we can make that happen. But
absolutely.
Yeah. But thanks again for being on here, Lauren. It's just been a pleasure.
Thank you, Charles.
And looking forward to continuing that conversation at some other point, maybe hopefully in person.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, everyone out there, for the Orchestra Teacher Podcast, episode number 80, and the last one here of 2024. So thank you again, Lauren, for being on here. And it's just been a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Charles. This was wonderful. All
right. Well, everybody take care and have a wonderful new year. Bye now. Thank you for tuning in. For resources and more information, visit orchestrateacher.net.